I think I'm in the zone now. My script is ready. I'm going to do it this year. My sense of patriotism is very hard-coded. I wouldn't go to a village in search of a girl to get married. If you'd asked me to climb a mountain, I would have said, yeah, why not? Because I've not done it before.
So for someone who wanted to become a doctor, you've spent over a quarter century in the film industry.
Right.
What is that headspace like?
Life doesn't pan out the way you expect it to always. It teaches you something that, it taught with the fact that I couldn't, that my dad didn't want me to be a doctor and he wanted me to sign up for a business program, etc. I was initially angry, but then later on it taught me to be able to enjoy whatever I'm doing and to still do it well. And so it's like a jack of all trades in a sense. So.
Okay, so let's go back to another mind space. What was it like when you get your first film and you're pitted opposite two huge stars like Rajinikanth and Mammootty?
It was just fun for me. I mean,
You weren't nervous at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Because I was doing some ads while I was at college, and I was doing it for pocket money. And I was doing it to, because my dad used to give me like $10 a day. So, and I used to get about like, I think 5,000 rupees a day for an ad, for a commercial. So that was a lot of money to splurge with friends.
Right.
I suddenly realized that I think at some point that if you'd asked me to climb a mountain, I would have said, yeah, why not? Because I've not done it before. So when Mani called me, I think he saw some of the ads. I actually haven't asked him yet as to...
You still haven't asked him?
No, it doesn't matter. I was there. So he called me and I went. And they did a screen test, like an audition with Santosh was there.
Which was the scene?
The Achamille, Achamin Badille, that part in Thalapathy.
Right. இச்சகத்துள்ளோரெல்லாம் எதிர்த்து நின்ற போதிலும் அச்சமில்லை அச்சமில்லை அச்சம் என்பதில்லையே.
And then they said, yeah, we have to shoot in a couple of weeks. So I didn't expect that actually. So I told him, I said, I haven't told my dad yet, so you'll have to come home and ask my dad. I was straight out of college, I was 20 years old. So he actually came home and asked my dad permission and tried to convince him. Reluctantly, my dad said yes, and then we started Thalapathy. And then before we went to shoot, he said, you're acting against two big superstars, Mammootty and Rajini sir. So, and there are a lot of fine actors around. So, you have to be able to. I said, yeah, no problem. I just went and did it.
So did it come easily, this part? Because commercials are just 30 seconds, whereas here it's learning lines.
Actually, I don't even think about, even when I was doing commercials then, I just kind of understood what they wanted out of it and I just did it. With filmmaking, of course, I was very curious about, why the camera was placed in a particular way, why the lights were placed in a particular way, why did I have to stand on the left of camera or the right of camera, because I was totally new to.
Right.
So those were the questions that I was asking Mani or Santosh at that time. And my focus only on that.
Okay.
My focus not on the acting.
Now, all these years later, you're back with Mani Ratnam and Santosh Shivan for Chekka Chivandha Vaanam. It's like one full circle's happened.
Yeah.
How is it being an actor again in the same setup?
Oh, it's all different now because I think this 28 years later almost.
Right.
Everybody's evolved as human beings and in their craft as well. I'm, to an extent, a lot more liberated as an actor. My focus is there. The rest of the craft is something that I've learned through my journey as an actor and things that you observed
Right.
Through life. I started in 1990, but in between, after Roja, I was not here. I was in the US studying.
Right.
Then I came back and I did it for a few more years, and then I left the industry. So there are a lot of experiences outside the industry that is there. So it changes you as a person. In movies now, I pretty much contribute a lot more, I think, than I did before. Before I just do what I was asked to do. Today it's more participative. And I've also evolved as a person where I don't think if I have a good idea, I should keep quiet.
Okay.
So I keep voicing options, ideas all the time.
And this wasn't something you did earlier?
Not while the shoot was going on.
Okay.
For some reason, I thought, it's not my job.
So when did that realization happen that you could contribute to your role or to the
probably from Thani Oruvan.
Okay. Oh, just that recent?
Yeah, because I mean, earlier I used to do something towards the end of my career, but I was not really interested. I was not comfortable
Right.
being an actor or being a star in the late 90s. Being an actor was okay, but being the star was a
Right.
problem. I was not ready for it. I was not prepared for it. I couldn't deal with it. I didn't deal with it well. I found it as something of, that was pressurizing me in some way, and found it very claustrophobic. So, which is why I quit. Cuddle just happened out of the blue. I wasn't even planning to make a comeback or anything like that. So when Mani called me and said, no, get it. Because in between I went through a spinal injury and I was almost, I was paralyzed and things. So I wasn't even thinking that, I'm going to come back into movies. He just called me out of the blue and said, you're okay now, just get ready. I said, I'm not okay. He said, no, you are, but I'll give you 2 months, get ready. So because I had a layoff prior to Cuddle, I didn't even think of making a lot of suggestions or this or that. It's only in Thani when Mohan Raja was open to, we started off with a thin line of how Siddhartha Vimanyu should be, and then we worked together quite a bit for a few months actually on it. He was kind enough to allow me to do that. When we saw the response and when I saw the thing, I realized that, it's exactly what you decide is what is being liked, what is being accepted.
From the audience.
From the audience. And that's what, some of the other options that you discarded were probably good decisions that you make. So then it builds up from there, right? I think now the directors expect me to participate also. So it's the other way around.
Would you say your instincts are good in these things?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I think I'm in the zone now.
Okay. So is that why you're turning director?
No, it's not why I'm turning director. You won't believe I've been telling Mani scripts since I was in my mid-20s. Right? All stupid stuff. But I've been telling him that. He always encouraged me to say, you should. But I thought this is the right time because one, I've done 4 films last year, which will start releasing from this year.
Yeah.
And I'm doing Mani's film now, which will be the 5th. I have one more commitment, which is a bilingual in Tamil and another language. So I'll finish that. And then there'll be 6 films for release. Why burden the audience with more? So let me, this is the best time for me to also, my script is ready.
Did you write it?
Yeah, I wrote it. And I had 2 options. I had to make a choice. So I made a choice on one script that I've written.
Can you say anything about it?
I'll talk about it soon. As soon as I crystallize a few things about it.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it this year.
So what about the newer generation of directors that you're working with today? Apart from the fact that they're very young, is there something else that sets them apart from the directors that you worked with during the early phase of your career?
No, it's just the next generation. We all evolve along with what we see. So your sense of, the visuals and what goes with it. I'm talking about the sound or the way it's edited or everything, kind of changes. So these guys have grown up with that. So they're very clear about, like with Karthik, I think he's brilliant. He's got a clarity about what he wants to shoot and how he wants to shoot, as much as any of these great people that I've worked with. And I think he's probably one of the most interesting screenplay writers I've met. The way he has mastery over his own story and the way he's able to juxtapose certain things and to make it more interesting as a script, I think it's brilliant. I think if he can be protected in some way, then he has a lot of great things to do.
You mentioned how that the personal experiences had influenced your performance. Now, between Roja and Bombay, your parents passed away, and you said at that time that you looked much older in Bombay than you did in Roja, though the movies are just a few years apart. You said you looked almost 10 years older.
Right.
Now, in your newer parts, there's a darkness and an edge to you that one didn't quite see earlier. Part of this is, of course, the fact that these parts are villainous parts, and there's a certain aspect of you that probably was not there. But is there something else? The fact that you went through your paralysis, No,
the darkness actually comes with the ability to look at it and say it's interesting.
Okay.
The darkness does not come because there is darkness inside. I mean, the fact that I actually told Mohan Raja at that time, I said, I'm actually looking for a part, not to play the conventional villain, which is not what I want to do. I said I want to play an unapologetic negative person.
Right.
So I wanted to justify and internalize that part of it, and the fact that I'm searching for something like that, a role like that, actually is further liberating, because you know that you can do it, or even something like a small film, like an indie film like Dear Dad or whatever that we
Right.
did. That is also liberating for me, because I had a lot of mental reluctance to get there. It's about a parent who comes out of the closet
Right.
and admits to his sexuality, right, to his kid. I thought it was quite interesting as a story, but I didn't have the guts to do it, to be honest. And when I realized that I didn't have the guts to do it, I just called up and said yes.
Okay.
I realized that I was shying away because I didn't have the. It was my own. It was Arvind as a person who had certain reservations
About playing a gay character.
about, not playing. It's not about playing a gay character. It's about whether I could actually mouth those lines with conviction.
Okay. Okay.
Because I've never gone into the alternate sexuality part. Alternate means, to me, I'm saying,
Right.
within my sexuality, I'm supposed to look at the other person and say, I love you and I'll miss you. Is it easy for me to do the same thing that is not my sexuality? Like, I'm talking about my sexual preference as me as a person, right? So in fact, I actually, at some point, I think it was in Chicago or something like that, and they were saying, are you doing it or not, kind of a thing. I think I called Mani at that time. I said, I just have a very, very strange mind space that I'm in at this point in time. So he said, no, why should you? I mean, he also said, you should do it, an experiment. So then my challenge is to find a convincing way to say those lines.
Right.
Right? Not that I have to feel it, or not, it's not that, but I don't even know how to fake it. It was that part of it which was difficult for me.
So how did it happen? I mean, on sets where you...
No. Once I still remember that scene. We did it in the first take. It was a long take. We did it in one. I mean, everybody really liked the first take. It was quite draining for me, but there's an emotional thing where he talks to his father, who's I think who's got Alzheimer's or something, and he's like just talking to him, and as a part of the confession thing. So once I said yes, then I figured out ways to do it.
I'm gay.
And I keep always propagating the fact that me personally and me as an actor are different. Then why am I mixing this up?
That
Personal
because
decision or
you can
personal
think
preference,
because
why is that easy and why is this difficult? One is a crime, one is not.
Yeah.
Or maybe in some countries it is. But it's love at the end of the day, and you should be able to express it.
While acting in Roja, did you ever get the inkling that it would be such a national sensation?
Not at all.
Okay. It was just another movie.
Yeah, and just because I'm not from the movies, or not that I wanted to be a star, I was just enjoying the experience of it, and I knew that we were doing something really nice and interesting. I didn't even understand the economics of what was going to happen or what could happen, etc.
I have a question about your Rishi character in Roja. Now, I've always felt one thing a little odd about that film, which is like this guy who's kidnapped, and when this Kashmiri terrorist sets the national flag on fire, he kind of jumps on the fire and tries to extinguish it. And when I asked Mani Ratnam in the book about why Rishi does that, because I would think that this character would be a little clever enough to kind of not want to incite the terrorist in such an obvious manner. But Mani Ratnam said something very interesting. He said this character's way of saying "fuck you" to the terrorist. How did you see that?
I loved that scene.
Okay.
I felt it because my dad was a part of the freedom movement towards the end. We would watch the Republic Day parade. There would be a sense of patriotism and things like that. And he has helped a lot of people during the riots that partition, the riots that followed, or pre-partition or post-partition riots and things like that, and in Calcutta. And so there were a lot of people who would come and fill me with stories of how they were saved by him, and it was like that. So it was very inspiring to me, and so my sense of patriotism was very hard-coded at that time. So when this scene came, I just loved it. I thought this is what I would have done also.
Which is the closest to you, the character that you played that's closest to you in real life?
I think a bit of me in everything.
Okay. Even Siddhartha Abhimanyu.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Maybe his confidence or his attitude or whatever it is.
Okay.
But actually, now I separate the two in a lot of ways. I don't try to think like how I would think in that character. I kind of internalize the character so much that I do things very differently from how I would do it.
Right, but I'm talking about something like you read the script and you said, "Oh my God, this is just me." You know that has that
No.
ever happened?
Never.
Never. Not even with Roja or whatever.
No,
it is.
never.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I wouldn't go to a village in search of a girl to get married. Not that it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying.
When you did Roja, the Kashmir issue was going on for some time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you did Bombay, the nation was still very raw from the riots, and it was a fairly new thing that had happened.
Yeah.
Did that make a difference in the way the two movies were? You approached the two movies, or the way you felt when you were, doing those two films?
No, I'll just be very honest with you. I was studying overseas and I had to come back because my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she was terminally ill. It's not like the prognosis was good. So I came back to spend time with her in a hospital. And she passed away. And then in a few months, my dad also passed away. Then I went back to my office, our family business, whatever. I went back to my office. I couldn't sit in the office because it was a very directionless period for me. Because I was the only child and both my parents, I just had a dog at home and a lovely gentleman who was cooking for me, who had been with me, from my childhood. So these were the only two people there. And I couldn't step out of the house because I didn't know how to deal with the fame that Roja had brought in. So I didn't like the attention that I got. So it was so I had to sit at home and I had to be at the office. It was not a space that I was comfortable with. So I knew that if I actually went and did Bombay, and I wasn't thinking of, the riots that had just happened. It was a very personal choice for me. If I could do a film like Bombay with Mani, and he knew where I was coming from. So in Bombay, actually, when I was not, and it was a lot of, especially the second half was a lot of grungy kind of work. There would be things burning, and there would be fire, and there would be things, a lot of chaos, a lot of artists, a lot of things that are happening, and the emotion was there. And it would be early mornings to late nights, and there was no time to think. And that was much needed for me in my personal space at that time. And when I was not acting, and it's not like today where you're going and sitting in a caravan or whatever it is. If I was not acting, I would have to go and do junior artist management at the background or set the props right. Or that's what he made me do. I don't know why he made me do it, but he made me do it, and it just helped me get over that time in my life.
Okay. Let's talk about your films that you did, the first films that you did in Malayalam, Telugu and Hindi, which is Daddy, Mounam and Saat Rang Ke Sapne.
Yeah.
How was it like, going to a different language? Because you just weren't this, I want to become an actor.
I never thought of all that. I did Daddy because Santosh was there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was his production. His brother
Sangeet
was directing it. Right. And he said, Arvind, will you do my film? I said, yeah, I'll do it. We finished the film, I think, in 18 days.
Okay.
Which means like we would start early morning, we'd go till 1 in the night. I never shied away from that. I always thought, because in Thalapathy it was like that. When we started, money was at his craziest at that time, in terms of work timings, I'm saying. So my first day of shoot started at 2 in the morning or something, went on the whole day, went on till the next night, and it was like that. So I thought, okay, maybe everybody works like that. But that was a great learning for me because I never shy away from, even at, when we were setting up all the global businesses and all that, I used to work 18 hours a day and never felt like tiring. Just, you think that's how you should work,
And picking up languages and all came easy?
No, I have a learning disability for languages.
Okay.
So I don't like speaking other languages. But it didn't bother me then, but it bothers me now. In a sense that, see, even, for example, I did a film called Bombay, and then it was a national hit again. And the next film that I signed up was with Bharathan.
Right.
In Malayalam. It was not even a Tamil film.
Right.
So a lot of people I remember coming and telling me, what is wrong with you? You should do Hindi, you should do this. I said, why? I like the story, I want to do this. And I want to work with Bharathan. I think I was just curious about learning from people that I've heard great things about, like Bharathan or anybody else, and Santosh or Sangeet. I just like to, Balu Mahendra sir. So I wanted to just learn at that time, not acting. Right. I wanted to learn the craft and what they do different and why they make certain choices or things like that.
So Devaragam also had Sridevi in it.
Yes.
What was it like working with someone like that? Did you pick up something from the way she performed or the way she approached her role? Or
No, it's difficult to pick up anything from her in the sense that I've seen her when I was as a child. I watched Padinaru Vaidinle to different movies. You've always seen her from Moonram Pirai to Varve Mayam to everything else. That's what any Tamil films that I saw had her in it, right? And it's a part of your life in a sense when you grew up with all these.
right.
So when I went to act with her, it was I was just in awe of her ability to transform. You could hardly hear her speak. She'd be very quiet. Not like she was a very flamboyant person between the shots and all that. But the moment the camera would come on, there would be like something, extraordinary. It would surprise you each time because you never get to see it in a pre take scenario. You never get to see that side of her at all. So when this used to happen, it used to be like such a pleasure to watch and enjoy. Nothing to learn. You can't duplicate that.
One of your early films was also this rural drama called Thalattu. So considering the fact that you didn't plan your other films as well, are you going to say, no, I wasn't trying to get to the BNC centers?
I didn't even know what BNC Center, market, economics and all was. Everybody was saying that, he's such a, during Roja, after Roja was very yuppie and very whatever kind of a thing. And so I thought, why should I not do this? I'll do this. So most of my decisions are based on that.
Okay.
So
why not?
It's somewhere I think there's, just prove everybody wrong kind of a thing. And I can shoot myself in the foot doing that. But
what was that experience like?
It was an experience. So an experience is meant to be different.
Okay.
It's not meant to be successful or it's not meant to be all that. It's meant to be an experience where you learn something.
So that's also the film where you did very hardcore commercial things like dancing and all that, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
I always thought of myself as a good dancer in those days.
Okay.
Because I used to dance for my school in Don Bosco and we used to win cultural events. The only thing is I just lost interest in dancing. When I look back, it's not that I was a great dancer, but I thought I was good and I thought I could manage. I remember in Roja also when I met Sundaram Master for the first time, he said, in the particular dance, I don't know, something he said. And I said, yeah, Master, no problem, I'm a very good dancer. I told him, this is the first thing I told him. So he said, paakalam, he said. And of course, when the music goes on and they're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm not used to all that, right? So this dancing was very different from the dancing that I was used to.
I remember something that Sujata said. When he looked at you, it was like you were even dancing like a computer engineer. So,
yeah, that part you did it, I kind of deliberately.
Okay.
That he was actually uncomfortable in that dhoti and he was doing that. So that went with the character. I'm not trying to show off that I could dance or I couldn't dance.
Right.
But then you had Kuchi Kuchi Rakama and all that, which had a fair bit of dancing.
Have you seen your older films recently and, reacted to them in a very different way than...
No. The only chance that I get to see some of the films is like Roja and Bombay, which are still interesting today. So,
okay.
But when I see the films, mostly I just remember the incidents that happened before, the incidents that happened during the thing, what we actually planned and what we can't.
Okay.
So those are like, it's more like memories rather than analyzing. But I can still see it.
Is there a film that was the easiest for you to do or the film that was most difficult to do? Would you kind of...
The easiest is probably the most difficult.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. If it's a characterization that is complex, if there's a lot of work that is involved, whatever, then it's easy because you have direction. It's always a problem when you don't have that.
Okay.
When there's nothing pushing you is when you will fail.
Okay.
So either you, as an actor, what you start doing is then you start indulging.
Right.
You forget the meter because you are bored with what you're doing.
Right.
It's only that. So you have to curtail that and make sure that you're sincere to what is required. It's not about what you're capable of. It's not an exhibition.
So is there a philosophy that you have?
Yeah, I think a lot of these choices that you're kind of finding it, finding it humorous or finding it intriguing.
I'm finding it intriguing, not humorous.
So, I think it comes from what I think about life in a sense. So I just feel you're born, you're going to die, right? I don't believe in a lot of people are here say it's my legacy and this is my thing. Nobody's going to remember you. I'm saying there are far greater people who impacted the world who people forget and move on. So I'm not working towards what happens after I die. It doesn't make sense. So I'm just trying to do things that are interesting for me, make choices that will make me learn something, whatever. I'm not trying to be even a better person in the sense. I mean, I'm not doing these things to be a better. I do other things, but I'm saying I'm not doing this to. I'm just doing this to learn as much as I can. What I'll do with it later, I don't know. But something that I don't know that I'm more curious about. I think I need challenges in my life. So in the next 3 to 4 years, I'll do as much as I can.
What happens after that?
I'll decide after 4 years.
So this is a question I like to ask actors about name of your filmmakers that you worked with and something that you've either learned from them or an experience of working with them. I'll begin with Mani Ratnam.
I mean, I can talk about technicalities and what I learned from him and all, but that's apart from that. I think what sets him apart from the other people that I worked with is his focus and his, in a positive way, his selfishness to get his project the way he wants it. I think that's that passion is incredible. I've not seen it in other people.
What about Balu Mahendra, with whom you did Marubadiyum?
I didn't spend too much time. Actually, it was a very short thing. I learned a lot of other things, like in terms of it was totally opposite to Mani's set at that time. Everything would be calm. Everything would be like there was no adrenaline kind of a thing. It was all like very bland, calm. He would be with it, and then he would allow me to see through the lens and see what shot he's doing. It was a different experience working with him.
What about Mahendran? He's another legend that you worked with.
We did for NFDC. I didn't take any money for it, though I was at my peak during that time, only because I wanted to work with Mahendran, sir. One of the films that I saw about, like, I think 6 times in the theatre, and I think twice or thrice with my mom, and she never used to watch Tamil films, was Johnny. Really, I don't know, for some reason. We just kept going for that film. And I'm saying from Mullum Malarum. I mean, everything that he had done, I think the dialogues for Tangapadakam also he had written. I think out of all the filmmakers in that generation, a few of those films really stood out for me. And I think he was a genius when he was working at that time. Did things differently, very minimal dialogues, and the dialogues would actually make sense. It was very economical. That's the right word. It wasn't a very...
But Mani Ratnam's dialogues are also fairly minimal. How was this different from that minimalism?
Mani Ratnam had his own style.
Right.
He would say, I mean, that would be dialogues in a particular structure and all that. But with Mahendran sir, I'm saying it was not about style. It was about the economy. He really respected it as a visual medium, right?
Right.
So it would be, and his ability to write the dialogues were also great. So this appealed to me. So what we did in Thani Oruvan, for example, is I tried to do that. Now when I think about it, I'm just making the connection now as we have coffee. I was just trying to make that connection. Because I didn't want to speak much. We had a lot of dialogues initially written for the character. So I told Mohan, I said, so what do you want to communicate in this scene? This is what you want to communicate, right? So can I do it in a way which is economical? So Thani Oruvan actually was very, very, very calculative in a lot of ways. The effect of what I do would impact the next scene or the scene. It's like that, not just about the characterization. I wanted the audience to be occupied by thinking, what is he thinking? I don't want to articulate what I'm going to do. Which is why the surprise element kept happening. There were twists and turns that you like, because in a lot of our discussion, we said, we should not explain what we're going to do. You know, we respect their intelligence to be able to understand, and by the time they understand, the next twist is starting. Right. And so that's why it became so interesting.
Was it interesting to repeat the role in Dhruva because you're practically doing the same thing?
No, I didn't want to do the film.
Okay.
I mean, I just didn't want to do it because one, it was boring. Because in Thani Oruvan, like I said, you know, we collaborated quite a lot in getting that character and what the choices that he make. We had a debate about smoking and drinking, and I said I don't want to do that because it's like a crutch for a villain and a stereotype. I said, let this guy not do any of that. I'll make it convincing without all that kind of a thing. So thought went into every aspect, right? So that was the only film I was doing then, also. in a sense. So my thought was, it was all there. So every bit was like sculpted. Even coming out and the eyebrow part, I said there's something else that I feel like doing, but I said I can't do that, so let me do this. So it was all impromptu. It was like there on the set we thought certain things. So everything was like, it came out beautifully. So to go back and do the same thing, and then when you see something like this, you don't want any changes, because the person who's remaking it is not going to make any changes, right? So and if I were to make changes, again, it would be like my indulgence. Just because I've seen it before does not mean it's not the most effective way to communicate.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just because I've seen it before, I shouldn't be bored with it and try and do something new and mess it up. So that is also, that's why it become more difficult.
Right.
So I have to do the same thing, and I'm not used to, like, even if you see, even in Mani's film that I'm doing now, I very difficult for me to do the same thing in every take also. I don't do it like that. It's just very fluid. The freedom goes away when you're doing remakes and all that. And I really suffered with the language.
Okay.
I'm being honest. I have a limitation. I cannot speak. Hindi is something that I learned from school. So for whatever reason, it comes. Because we did live sound in Dear Dad also. So I didn't, it was quite okay. But other languages it really burdens my mind. And you tend to overact because of that. You don't understand what you're communicating. Right? So you start gesturing.
Okay.
I'm trying to communicate through my gestures and mumbling something which I don't understand. So suddenly you realize, when you're looking at the monitor saying, why am I doing all this? So you say, can I do one more? And then you try and say it in Tamil or in a language that you can come, and then do it again.
Finally, two more filmmakers, Rajiv Menon and Priyadarshan.
With Rajiv, Minsara Kanavu.
Right.
Rajiv I know for a long time, even during the ad days and all that. So he's always like, it's like you just need to trigger Rajiv with a question, and then you will learn a lot of things, because he'll explain with a lot of conviction and passion about everything related to the topic that you mentioned. So it's all, being around Rajiv is always educational in that sense. Priyan, I think that time he had with Ravi K and Sabu and all that. I think more that I took back from that was more of the colors and the visual sense that he had, and his ability to be clear about what he was doing, so to be cut to cut, and there would not be much wastage and things like that.
So all these learnings over the years, one would think will find their way into your product you're making.
No, all these are just inputs. Finally, I'll discard a lot of them and I'll have my own, and whatever it is, the choices that I make finally.
You seem very confident about this fact that...
I mean, just like I was confident about going in front of Rajini sir. Today I will think like 100 times, or I would be, kind of nervous to be in a situation like that. More than at least then. I'm saying then I didn't. So it's like that. It's like anything new, you always... I know it's new. I know in my head that I've seen my film.
Right.
I've already cut my film. I've already seen the performances, all that. Now to execute it is the thing. I'm confident I'll do it.
All the best.
Thanks.